As long as there's Social Security, fraudsters will try and steal it. Well, now artificial intelligence is revving up fraudsters' efforts. The Social Security Administration's Office of Inspector General is searching for ways to use AI in its own efforts to stop fraud. Here with the details, the Chief Strategy Officer in Social Security's OIG, Chad Bungard. Mr. Bungard, good to have you on.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you asking me to join you today, Tom.
All right. And fraud at Social Security is something I know the agency has been dealing with and is very active about for a long time. Fair to say?
Absolutely. Since our inception in 1995.
All right. And in general, what is the way the world stands now? What is the main mechanism for fraudsters at this point?
So we do report the number of fraud allegations that we receive by category in our semi-annual report to Congress. And most recently, you'll see that number one right now are government imposter scams. And, government imposter scam is where someone pretends to be from Social Security or another federal agency and demands access to information or money. And so starting in 2018, we saw a huge rise in the number of complaints we received about SSA imposter scams, peaking in September 2020 with over 110,000 SSA imposter scam complaints. And that is just to our website. I'm not even talking about the numbers that the FTC received. And so quickly we became the number one government imposter scam in the country, taking the mantle from the IRS. I think you probably remember, and I received several calls. I even worked for Treasury a bit. And I was getting these calls and they were scaring me that, from the IRS, but they weren't from the IRS. And so then they moved over to SSA. Now we quickly became the number one government imposter scam in the country. And I think we're still number one, although I'll touch upon in a second through a lot of our work, those numbers have really gone down. But, at its height, U.S. consumers, many of whom are elderly or otherwise vulnerable, were just inundated with millions of illegal robocalls every day. Tom, I'm sure you've received them. I've received them.
Yeah. In other words, these calls claim to be SSA and get your credentials, and then they can become you with your credentials and get your Social Security payments.
Yeah, they're looking for your information or your money, Tom.
Sure.
And so this is something that we had to tackle quickly and effectively. So they're growing at an alarming rate, and it peaked in September 2020. But we came up with a multifaceted, innovative, multi-pronged approach to combat these damaging scams through public outreach and education, criminal and civil investigation, enforcement, and prosecution. But I would say our most successful way of attacking these have probably been through the public outreach and education efforts.
All right.
And each year, we partner with SSA, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations and private sector on Slam the Scam, which yesterday, Tom, was National Slam the Scam Day during FTC's National Consumer Protection Week. It seems like every year we get a Senate resolution unanimously passed declaring National Slam the Scam Day. And the whole goal of this, and it's really taken off, and hashtag Slam the Scam that everybody's listening. It's really taken off to increase awareness about how to spot government imposter scams.
Let's get on to artificial intelligence now has come along. And would you say it's a potential for revving up some of these scams, or what's your concern?
Absolutely. But I do want to tell the very good story. Through these education outreach efforts, Tom, in September 2020, when it was 110,000 a month, 105,000 a month, we now, for the past 2 years, have been averaging maybe 5,000 to 8,000 complaints per month. So they've gone way down. Getting to your artificial intelligence question, right? You probably have noticed that a lot of these calls is broken English. The grammar isn't the best. They don't have a good understanding of American culture. But AI is able to fix all that. They are able to run things through. They can run things through ChatGPT and fix all the grammar issues. And so the bar to entry will be much lower. When it comes to AI manipulated media, there's no single telltale sign of how to spot a fake. Some of the old-fashioned telltale marks of poor grammar, those can be resolved right now, today. And so we are also, I've done some presentations for different government agencies on this subject. And one of the things that you're likely to see more of, people are likely to see more of, in my view, is the AI-generated phishing email scams, because they look so real and they can really fool people. So, and then you can have deepfake video where now it takes someone literally, he knows what they're doing. And I know a guy who learned how to create a deepfake video by watching YouTube tutorials. He created a deepfake video that I demoed in front of a few groups, and he learned it all in 2 weeks. And now with anybody's audio and video, that of just 15 seconds, he can do a deep fake of you, Tom, saying things that you've never said before. And that's scary. You're also going to see probably an uptick in chatbots because with AI, they automatically learn. It's not manually done anymore. Through mistakes that they make, they're able to pick up and how to correct the mistakes that they're making. But one of the things that I think is always going to remain the same for all of these scams, even in the artificial intelligence world, the thing for people to look at is scare tactics. And I want to remind people of the 4 Ps, which I think are always going to be important, even in this artificial intelligence era. And that is scammers pretend to be from an agency or organization that to gain someone's trust. The scammers will say there's a problem. You need to correct immediately. So that's the second P. There are 4 Ps here, Tom. And the third P is scammers will pressure you to act immediately. If you don't call us, and this is an IRS call that I got years ago, it scared me that, you're behind. I'm like, what? I'm not behind. I pay my taxes. But it still sounds scary, right? Even the sophisticated, especially the vulnerable. But they pressure you to act immediately, and scammers tell you to pay in a specific way. So those are the things to always look out for, even in this AI world.
Yeah. Have you seen any of this applied to Social Security-related scams yet? Or is that just, do you feel it hasn't happened yet?
It is hard to say for 100% certainty, but I believe so. So there was a time back in, I would say, 2020, where our 1-800 number in our field offices were receiving calls from the public who sounded very, very real, who we believed after a careful analysis of some of these calls that they were very likely to be AI chatbots. And there's only so much I can say here, Tom, about some of these because of ongoing criminal investigative matters, but I will say some things that I can say. At first, these callers would call in and they would ask basic questions, right? And then they hung up. It seemed like they were trying to figure out what information SSA would ask someone when they tried to identify themselves. They were getting an understanding of questions for information or fishing for information, see how everything worked. They were trying to learn the lay of the land, so to speak. So sure enough, these callers, and again, were very likely AI bots, began to impersonate beneficiaries or recipients and run a script with the intent to redirect the direct deposit from the intended victim to the scammer. And some are successful. There are some telltale signs that I'm unable to get into here, but however, we were able to pin down and stop that in its tracks by working with SSA, and SSA addressed this issue through its process improvements. But is it possible that it's still happening and that we're not receiving referrals? Well, that's the kind of thing that we would like to dive into.
Well, I guess my question is, what are you mainly recommending to Social Security to be on guard against this, other than to be on guard against it? Because it sounds like it takes a particular level of technical understanding to be able to identify these things.
Yeah, well, let me say SSA has been a tremendous partner in working on anti-fraud issues. The Inspector General sent a letter to the acting commissioner last summer saying, we really need to collaborate together and work together to look at AI-related fraud and also, look at tools to fight fraud, generally with AI. And so at the same time, the Inspector General established an internal task force, and our goal is to study AI and related technology for those two purposes, to fight fraud with AI tools and to fight AI-related fraud. And SSA, they've already had in place an AI core group. And so when I say we had a good relationship, we have a very innovative partnership with the agency, and it's very unique in government. We call it the National Anti-Fraud Committee. I'm a co-chair of that committee with the Deputy Commissioner at SSA, the Office of Analytics Review and Oversight. And through this, it allows us to raise issues outside of the investigative and audit processes. And we work at the highest levels of the agency to identify real action items aimed at fighting, preventing, and detecting fraud. And so we meet quarterly at the highest levels, and then yearly, not only at the highest levels, but we bring in subject matter experts throughout the entire agency. We have like 8 or 9 discrete sessions sections over a 3-day period to really tackle issues. In this past year, in September 2023, we held a National Anti-Fraud Summit focused mostly on AI and the impact of AI on modern fraud schemes. And one of the action items that came out of that summit last year was to hold quarterly meetings with our AI task force at OIG and the agency's AI core team to